Rabbi Yonasan Omer, Kol HaMakayim Et HaTorah Me'oni, Sofo L'Kaima Me'osher. That's the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that we read yesterday. Kol HaMakayim Et HaTorah Me'oni. Someone who fulfills Torah from poverty, Sofo L'Kaima Me'osher. In the end, eventually, he'll be able to fulfill it from wealth. But the Meforshim asks, one does not fulfill the Torah Me'oni, one fulfills the Torah Ba'oni. Why does it say Me'oni? The answer is, says the Ruach HaChaim, Chaim of Volozhin, that if a person has a sense of poverty in his Torah learning, and he wants to observe Torah, he wants to learn Torah, he has a desire to learn Torah, Me'oni, it comes from the sense of lacking, so Folakaimo Me'osher, he'll have Torah that will be a wealth to him because he desires Torah so much. Or a person feels that he's impoverished in learning Torah. Only when a person feels that he has a loss for not knowing enough Torah. When that's the person's motivation, then he'll seek Torah, and then he'll feel wealthy because he will be able to acquire and to accrue more and more Torah. And of course, that is the theme of Michala. That's the theme of Machal. The theme of Machal is not just to learn Torah, but to have a sense of the vast world of Torah. How great the Torah is, how much the Torah has to offer, and how much we don't understand, and therefore to increase our motivation to learn Torah and to live by Torah. That's the goal of Michala Yerushalayim. And that was the goal of Linda Pinsky, Aleh Shalom, who was a student of Michala in 1979. She was nifter in 1984, and there's no one today in Michala who knows her anymore, because no one is a teacher now in Michala who was a teacher in those years. But all of us understand what that motivation was. And her family, her parents knew what that motivation was as well, when in 1989, a few years after her Petira, they decided to dedicate the Michala program in her memory, the Linda Pinsky School for Overseas Students, Machal, a school that has as its goal students who desire Torah and the desire to fulfill it. Because it doesn't just say Kol HaLomed Torah Me'oni, it says Kol HaMekayim Torah Me'oni. It's not just enough Lumod, it's not just enough Lamed, but it's Lumod, Laso, Lishmor, Ulekayim. One has to want to be Mekayim Torah, because the thirst for Torah is not just an intellectual thirst, it's a spiritual thirst. It's a thirst of one's neshama. It's a thirst of a desire to have closeness to the Ribono Shel Olam. And that is what the purpose of the Linda Pinsky School for Overseas Students is. That was the reason why Linda Pinsky came to learn in Michala. That was desire for family to see that our Machal program would be the fitting monument for her memory, talking about a wonderful young person and a dedication to Torah and to her family, who wanted to give an opportunity to all to learn Torah. And that's the dedication of the Torah that is in Michala, the Linda Pinsky School. For years, Rabbi Applebaum, the father of Nochum, used to speak about Linda because he knew her well and he knew the family well. He passed away a number of years ago, and in those years we've been asking family members to share with us their memories of their niece, of Linda. We also noted this time that a year ago on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, Mr. Jerry Pinsky, the benefactor of our program, was nifter shortly before last year's Yom Iyun. And therefore, there's noted on the program on the Michala site links to words that I said last year, links to words that Rabbi Lubarsky said last year, and shiurim that were presented by Ms. Cowan and by myself as well as part of last year's Yom Iyun. But we wanted to present you with a fresh Yom Iyun this year, with a personal sense, a personal opportunity to get to hear things live from Linda's aunt, hear Malay Rachamim and Tehillim that we'll recite together from Linda's uncle, and to hear a shir from Emmanuel Bernstein, each of which I will introduce in the appropriate time. But it's appropriate to note that in a certain way, the fact that we're able to continue our learning, even though you are far away from campus, everyone is in their hometown, everyone is with their family, and your teachers are dedicatedly giving shiurim late at night in Israeli time, times that they never gave shiurim. Maybe they prepared their classes, they were able to be with their families, and now their dedication to the Machal students of Tufshin Pei is that they've changed their whole schedule so that we're able to provide this year's Machal students with a unique program and a continuity that goes on and on and on, continuing from what we had in the Michala up until the time of Purim, a program that's going to continue for the next month past Shavuos until the month of June. Because that's a sense of having this desire of Torah, me'oni. There's a certain impoverishment this year. You're away from your teachers, you're away from Yerushalayim. Those of you who would have gone to Meron tomorrow night on Lag BaOmer, together with the rest of Am Yisrael who are not going, you're not able to go there. The walk to the Kotel on Shavuos night, the mishmar that we have, the togetherness that we have, there's a certain me'oni, there's a certain impoverishment. There's a loss, and we don't deny that loss. Those of us in Eretz Yisrael feel that loss as well. Those who would go to Meron aren't going there. Those who'd walk to the Kotel in masses, at this point, it doesn't seem that that will be able to do, that people who are prudent are going to do such things. Nonetheless, when we have a desire that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should return things the way that we want, and not just the way that we know, but make them better, Abiyas Goel HaMashiach, when we have that desire, when that is our motivation, then we can ask for ourselves, if we are Mekayim Torah, Me'oni, if we make sure that our learning Torah is on a high level, that our tefillot are on a high level, that we're in a home on a Shabbos, there's still a Shabbos atmosphere in our clothing, in our behavior, in our dress, in our divrei Torah, in the Kedusha that Shabbos reigns upon us, then we have fulfilled the idea of this Mishnah, Kol HaMekayim Es HaTorah Me'oni, Sof L'Kaymo Me'oshir. Chazal teach us when the Pasuk says, Sisu Es Yerushalayim, Kol HaMis'avlim Bo, those who are mourning Yerushalayim should rejoice with it. Kol HaMis'abel Yerushalayim, Zoche V'roel V'hibonoso. One who misses Yerushalayim, one who mourns Yerushalayim, one who knows that the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash was a devastating effect that we feel 2,000 years even later, then Be'ezrat Hashem, we will have the merit to see the rebuilding of Yerushalayim. We welcome you to this Yom Iyun in memory of Linda Pinsky, Aleha Hashalom. After I'm finished speaking now, we'll have words of remembrance, Perek Tehillim, Kamalei Rachamim, and a shir from Rav Bernstein. We've asked Linda's aunt, Mrs. Hindi Cohen, Mr. Pinsky's sister, to speak about her niece, to tell us about her, to let us know about this wonderful young lady who at this point would be a middle-aged person, if not more, didn't have the chance to build a bayis b'Yisrael, to have children and to have grandchildren, as her peers have at this time. We remember a wonderful young woman, and we're inspired by her memory and inspired by her family. We want to dedicate the program to her. We'll now ask Mrs. Cohen to share words with us about her niece, Linda. Mrs. Cohen, please.
Shalom uvracha lekulam, Rav Polak, teachers of the Machal program, our family, and of course all the students that are with us tonight. This year, Hashem has challenged us in a very unique manner. This yard site is a very different one for all of us. You, the students, were really enjoying your learning in Yerushalayim, being in Ira Kodesh, being with all the friends you have met and have become close to. And now here we are having this Yom Iyun in memory of Linda Zal, and we're talking through Zoom. I'm used to speaking to you with a Yom Iyun, seeing all your faces in front of me, sitting there, so interested, so eager to learn. Well, I will try and convey my thoughts and my memories to you in this digital way. Thank you. Linda Zahava Rivka was my very first niece, and I loved her very much. Our daughter Liraz was named after Linda. Linda was a special young lady with very fine midot. Linda spent her year at Michlala about 36 years ago. And it's so very warming to us that Michlala remembers her so. She was in Israel at a time when it was not as common to learn here as it is today. There were only very few programs for women in Israel. And then Michlala was Linda's choice because of its excellence. There were only 83 students in the student body that year. And since then, every year, the student body grows and expands. And Linda loved her year at the Michlala and her year in Israel. She found it so hard to leave, and she remained for the summer program, developing an interest in the field of computer science. After that, she returned to New York, studied at Barnard, and then secured a position in the computer department of AT&T. At that time, a year in Israel was a much different experience than today, not regarding the learning, but of the experience of living the year away from home. Today, we have communication at our fingertips, phone calls, emails, WhatsApp, Twitter, Instagram. I don't even know. I'm not aware of all of this. The year Linda lived here, she would have to go to the main post office, stand in line, wait, and then make a very short, expensive phone call. And the result of having less contact with home meant the development of greater independence. When you can't call or email, you learn to develop inner strengths and develop a more involved relationship with the Israeli society. During her year in Israel, I and my family, my husband Chaim, and then 2 children made Aliyah. My sister Esther already made Aliyah. She got married here and was living in Yerushalayim. Linda's Baba and Zayda, Alehem Shalom, made Aliyah that summer, just as her uncle Yehuda and wife Becky with their family made Aliyah. And so we were all here for her. And she came and she visited us and the family. And our children really loved her visits. And she was such a happy, positive person. She was full of fun. She was curious. She was energetic. She was happy with those around her, and everyone was happy with her. She saw the good side of things without talking or complaining about things that didn't please her. Iyun Tov. The Perkei Avot, Perek Aleph, Mishnah Vav, Katuv. Yehoshua ben Prachia v'nitai ha'arbeli kiblu mehem. Yehoshua ben Prachia omer, aseh lecha rav, kene lecha chaver, v'hayu dan et kol ha'adam lekaf zchut. Linda was very good-natured as a child, and that quality remained with her as a young lady. She had a special goodness, a leiv tov, deep within her. Dan et kol ha'adam lekaf zchut. The year of her studies at Michlala, she had many opportunities to show her spirit and character of caring and working with her friends, studying, volunteering, showing much thoughtfulness to those around her. And she had a lot of friends, and also the Israeli girls in the regular Michlala tract. Linda was very attached and devoted to Eretz Yisrael. She felt that her studies in Eretz Yisrael was a different experience in Israel than it was in Chutz La'aretz. Torat Yisrael machkima. But not only that, it instilled values. It helped her appreciate the very special relationship of Torah and mitzvot that exists particularly in Eretz Yisrael. Towards the end of her year at the Machal program, she called her parents and she explained she was interested in staying for an innovative program in computer science at Michlala. And they agreed. And that was the start of her direction to the field of computers, majoring and then working in the field. The field of computers is not what it is today. It was then in its infancy. This was before the PC home computer, before Microsoft Windows, before Apple and everything else that's around there. She got into the field on the ground floor and she loved it. Shortly after she began working in the field of computer science, Linda battled with leukemia. She was a very brave young lady. We're not able to understand the ways of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I think that Linda would want to bless all of you, beautiful students of Machal. She would say to you, have strength to enjoy, accomplish, and love, and grow with the love of Torah and Eretz Yisrael. I'm sure she would bless you that you should soon have the opportunity to come back here to Eretz Yisrael and continue your learning and continue your lives here. Linda should be a Melitzat Yosher to all of us. Refuah Shlema to all Am Yisrael who are ill. May they recover and regain their strength soon. V'shenizkeh li'ri'at HaMashiach. Amen.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cohen. This is, I think, the 31st year that we've had a Yom Iyun in memory of Linda. This is the 31st year that we've had a Yom Iyun in memory of Linda. I think, except for 2 or 3 years when I was in America, meeting with the incoming class, which occurs at this period, that each of the times I heard first Rabbi Applebaum, and then Mrs. Zilcha, Linda's aunt, was here with us tonight, and Mrs. Cohen beginning last year, sharing their thoughts about Linda. And I must tell you, even though I know what they're going to say, because I've heard it so many times, even though I didn't know Linda, each time it's very moving. It's moving to hear about a wonderful young person. And it's very wonderful to hear about the family who loved her so much and was so happy to take her in to be part of her lives. And of course, that's the unique bond that they had with her, particularly in that year, because most of the family was in Israel and Linda's family was in the United States. And that was a gift for them, a gift for Linda, a gift for Linda's parents. And now that they share it with us, it's a gift for us as well. For many years, the first years of the Yemei Iyun that we had in Linda's memory, we were graced with the presence of Linda's grandparents, Chazan and Mrs. Pinsky. And every year, Chazan Pinsky would come and say a Perek Tehillim and say the Kilmol Rachamim in memory of his granddaughter. Sadly enough, through the years, they have passed away. And now their son, Rabbi Yehuda Pinsky, is with us for the last number of years. He joined in those days for the Yemei Iyun, and now to lead us as well. I'm asking Rabbi Pinsky shortly to say a Perek Tehillim, Shamalos Mimamakim, that we will all, from all our various places, say that Perek Tehillim in memory of Linda and for the welfare of Klal Yisrael, because we need it. Okay, Es Sarah Yaakov. In many, many fronts, the Jewish people are facing great challenges, not just from the corona, not just from the virus, but from acts of anti-Semitism, for the weakness of Jewish people in many places. As well as saying a Kilmol Rachamim in Linda's memory, to which will answer Amen. I've also asked Rabbi Pinsky to say the Kilmol Rachamim in memory of his brother, Reb Gedalia, Mr. Jerry Pinsky, the benefactor of the Mifala program, again, whose first yard site was just 2 weeks ago. We'll ask Rabbi Pinsky now to please lead us in the Perek Tehillim and in saying the Kilmol Rachamim for his niece and then for his brother, Rabbi Pinsky.
שיר המעלות ממעמקים קראתיך אדוני אדוני שמע בקולי תהיינה אוזניך קשובות לכל תחנוני
אדוני שמע בקולי תהיינה אוזניך קשובות לכל תחנוני
יבנה תשמור יא אדוני מי יעמוד
אם עוונות תשמור יא אדוני מי יעמוד
כי עמך סליחה למען תברא
כי עמך סליחה למען תברא
קיוויתי אדוני קיוותה נפשי ולדברו הוכלתי.
קיוויתי אדוני, כי בשא נפשי ולדברו הוכלתי.
נפשי לאדוני משומרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר.
נפשי לאדוני, משמרים לבוקר, שומרים לבוקר.
יחל ישראל אל אדוני, כי עם אדוני החסד והרבה עמו פדות.
יחל ישראל אל אדוני, כי עם אדוני החסד והרבה עמו פדות.
והוא יפדה את ישראל מכל עוונותיו.
והוא יפדה את ישראל מכל עוונותיו.
אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר רקיע מזהירים את נשמת זהב רבקה בת גדליה ושולמית שהלכה לעולמה. בעבור שבלי נדר ניתן צדקה בעד אזכרת נשמתה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה, לכן בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום המשכבה, ונאמר אמן. אל מלא רחמים שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, במעלות קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר רקיע מזהירים את נשמת גדליה בן ישעיה בא וממציא, שהלך לעולמו. בעבור שבלי נדר ניתן צדקה ביד אזכרת נשמתו, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתו. לכן בעל הרחמים יסתירהו בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, יצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח בשלום המשכבו, ונאמר אמן.
Thank you, Rabbi Pinsky. We're in an unusual situation. Those of us who are presenting are in Israel, and the vast majority of those who are listening to us are in Chutz La'aretz. But that gives us an opportunity to talk about crossing the oceans of the different time zones, because those of you who are listening in Chutz La'aretz, which is now the yahrzeit of Linda, Tet Zayin of Iyar, the 16th of Iyar, is also still the 31st day of the Omer. We in Eretz Yisrael already counted Sfira. It's the 32nd day of the Omer. This week, the 5th week of counting the Omer, is the week of Hod, the week of honor, of glory, which is signified by Aaron HaKohen, a week of Kedusha, of special sanctity, a time which remembered the sanctity to which Am Yisrael is able to rise. On the 31st day of the Omer, the third day of this 5th week, is the Midah of Tiferes Shebahod, the beauty of the sanctity, the beauty of the Kohen Gadol. Mari Kohen, as we say on Yom Kippur, the beauty that is there. But as we all understand, beauty is something which is very fleeting. Beauty is something which is very limited. That which is beautiful today may not be beautiful tomorrow anymore. In fact, we hear about one of the great Hamoroyim whose handsomeness was well known, and he cried about Hai Shufra de Bola Ba'ara. The beauty doesn't last. It is only temporary. But when we come to the next stage, the stage that near Yisrael we are now, the stage in a few hours, those who are listening to us and watching us will be now, you come to the time of Netzach, that which is eternity, the Midah of Torah, the Midah of Moshe Rabbeinu, that which isn't fleeting, that which is permanent. And thus we have today in aggregate a meeting of three middos. The mitzvah of Kedusha, the mitzvah of Kedusha, which has its beauty to it, which has its sanctity to it, the idea of the Kohen Gadol on Yom HaKippurim, entering the Kodesh Kadoshim and bringing kapara for Am Yisrael. And we have the idea of Netzach that takes that beauty and transfers it from being something fleeting, from something limited, from something temporary, and gives its permanence, because it's not just beauty which is in the eyes of the beholder. It's not just beauty which is a relative value. It's a beauty which is inherent. It's a beauty which is built in. It's a beauty which is the very vibrance of the life that we lead. If it's a life of Kedusha, a life of Netzach, attached to Torah, and that beauty shines forth and doesn't come to an end. It continues onward and onward. And therefore, the central part of our Yom Iyun is Divrei Torah and a shir for Rav Emanuel Bernstein. Machal students know Rav Bernstein because he's their teacher. Rav Bernstein is known not just for a teacher in Machal, a teacher of many places, a noted lecturer, and also a writer of many Sforim. Those who saw his Sforim on the Haggadah prepared for last Pesach. Those who saw his Sefer on Shavuos will have that as a preparation for Shavuos. And then we have for Shuvah, for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and very significantly for the Michala. He edited, annotated, and translated into English the monumental task of Rav Koopman's Pshuto Shemikra, which many of you have, and it's available on the Michala site. Rav Bernstein has prepared a unique shir for us tonight, in which there will be first a time of about 20 minutes to prepare the makoros that were sent to you already that appear, I think that you'll see right away now, to understand what they mean with some guiding questions for you. And Rav Bernstein now will introduce the shir. He will tell you about some of the questions, what you're to think about. Perhaps he'll be available to give some guidance as you are thinking. And then he's going to present the shir to all of us. So it is our honor that Rav Bernstein is able to speak tonight, to us tonight, give us a shir tonight in memory of Linda Pinsky, Abba Rivka, Aleha Shalom. Rav Emanuel Bernstein, please.
Good evening, good afternoon. It's a special pleasure and an honor to have been asked to give this shir in memory of Linda Pinsky, Aleha Shalom. I myself did not know Linda Pinsky, but like hundreds and thousands of others over the years, I know her name, and I have seen it associated only with the highest of causes in the institution that embodies all of the values that I know that she cherished from what I've heard, the Michlala, and no greater way to get together and perpetuate her honor and those values than to share words of Torah. And the title for the shir this evening is Active Listening. The Torah's description of what and how people hear. In a rare section of the Torah, we are treated, so to speak, not only to what someone heard, but then to hear in their words what they say they heard. And as we will see, the two do not always match up. And that should give us much food for thought in terms of the things that we hear. And so we've prepared some sources. There should be the icon near the invitation. There's an icon with books or pages. If you click on that, you'll receive the sources. And there are two sheets. The first one is for preparation now. The second has sources that will become clarified and elucidated as we develop the theme of this year. As you can see, you should be able to see there are a number of guiding questions which should allow you to prepare amply, take a look closely at the psukim, each word, each phrase, see the questions, and Mitzvah Hashem, we will meet back again in just about under 20 minutes or so. B'atzlacha, enjoy, and we'll be seeing you soon. Okay, welcome back. I hope the preparation was enjoyable, went smoothly. I hope the sources were clear and the questions were helpful. And we begin, therefore, our discussion of active listening. Of course, you can appreciate by this stage, active listening is something of a play on words. It's a very popular term nowadays, active listening. It's used, it's the art of showing the other person how interested you are in what it is that they're saying, or at least giving that impression. That's its own art form. For our purposes, active listening is the participation of the listener in what it is that he's hearing. And it's a very important lesson, and probably the clearest place in the Torah, as we said, for this idea is the Parsha of Balak. The background, of course, we know. Balak is somewhat alarmed. He sees Bnei Yisrael, he sees what they did to Sichon and Og. He thinks that maybe he's next. And therefore, he sends for Bilam, sends a message. And let's read the psukim together just to be sure we have the words before us. Vayishlach malachim el Bilam ben Beor. He sends messengers, a delegation to Bilam, Pesora, to the city of Pesor, Asher al Hanahar, Eretz b'nei Amo, likro lo. So the message to Bilam is as follows. Hinei am yatzam mitzrayim. There's this nation, they've left Mitzrayim, Hinei kisoeth ein haaretz, they're covering the view of the land, they're filling the land, v'hu yoshev mimuli. And they are settled opposite me. V'ata, therefore, my request is lecha na arali es ha'amazeh. Please, or now, curse this nation for me, ki atzum hu mimeni. They're mightier than I. Ulai uchal nakebo. Perhaps I might diminish them, va'agar shenu min haaretz, and banish them, get rid of them from the land. That's his plea, that's his call to Bilam. As we know, Bilam says, I'll have to ask. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to Bilam that night and asks, who are these people? And so in Psukim Yud and Yud Aleph, we hear Bilam retelling Balak's message. Vayomer Bilam Elo Elokim. I'll tell you who they are. Balak ben Sipor Melech Moab Shalach Elai. Balak ben Sipor, the king of Moab, sent to me, or sent for me. Bilam takes care to present Balak with all of his credentials. Melech Moab, as Rashi comments, Bilam, that's a message to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Says Bilam, you don't really think that much of me, but Balak does. He's the king of Moab. No doubt, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was much impressed. But down to the message. Hinei ha'ama yotzei mitzrayim, the nation that has left Mitzrayim, vayichas es ein haaretz. They've covered the land. Atala lecha kavali oso. Curse them for me. Ulai uchali lachim b'gereshtir. Perhaps I can do war against them and banish them and get rid of them. So those are the psukim. Those are the words. Rashi, in the earlier place, has a very interesting comment. For if you look at the word mimuli, and we have translated, of course, mimuli from the word mul, which means opposite, and that's the pashtus, shall we say. Rashi, as he often does, comments on the fact that the word mimuli is missing a vav. It's written chaser, which means it lends itself to another meaning. Says Rashi, chaser ksiv, mimuli is the pashtus, opposite me, but chaser ksiv, krovim heim lachriseni, they're going to cut me down. Kamo ki amilam. Mimuli is like amilam. They're poised to cut me down. Wow. It's very interesting to consider, just as a parenthetical comment, whether this meaning also came across to Bilam. We get this extra meaning from the pasuk missing a vav. But when Balak's emissaries gave this message to Bilam, they didn't do so in writing, presumably. They also didn't do so in Hebrew, by the way. But whatever language they spoke, can you hear There's a vav missing when a person speaks to you. Do they say the word mimuli differently? I'm not sure. That relates, of course, to a separate question of how the Torah formulates the things that people say. But in any event, Rashi tells us that mimuli without the vav means they're looking to cut me down. I think actually it's worthwhile learning this Rashi just to find out what the word ki amilam means. It's often possible to sing Hallel many times and get to the words V'Shem Hashem ki amilam and never to ask what the words ki amilam means. And of course, you can't ask anyone at that time. Everyone's singing. You don't wish to interrupt them. But ki amilam means to cut them down, and that's mimuli. So that's Rashi's comment on Balak's words to Bilam. Then, in the second set of psukim, Bilam's replay of Balak's words. So Rashi has two comments to make. Firstly, Rashi directs our attention to the fact that the verb has changed. Balak said to Bilam, orally, which means to curse. Balak said, kavali, which means to curse. I'm sure the translation is the same in English, but they're not the same word. And Rashi comments, kavali, says Rashi, zukarshame orally. That's worse. It's harsher. It's a stronger idea than orally. So Bilam is already quoting Balak as having asked for more than he actually did. And moreover, it goes further, because Bilam's replay, again, of Balak's words end with the word v'gerashtiv. I will banish them. Don't forget, says Rashi, Balak said va'agarashenu min ha'aretz. And therefore, says Rashi, v'gerashtiv means min ha'olam, absolutely, to get rid of them. Balak, says Rashi, Balak lo amar ela v'agarashenu min ha'aretz. Balak just said, I just want to get rid of them from being in front of me. Bilam hayasonam yoser mi Balak. Bilam hated them more than Balak. And that's why when Bilam says it, he doesn't say, I'll get rid of them from the land, meaning they can go somewhere else. He's saying, I'll get rid of them completely. They'll never go anywhere else. And therefore, Rashi tells us that these two changes are a product of the fact that Bilam actually hates the Bnei Yisrael more than Balak. I mean, Balak chose the right person. Not only is he talented cursing-wise, but he has also great credentials in his hatred for the Jewish people, exceeds that of Balak. And hence these two changes. Interestingly, and we asked in the questions, are there any other changes between Balak's actual words and Bilam's version of those words? And as the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Zatzal, points out, there are. The Lubavitcher Rebbe has wonderful sichos and shiurim on Rashi. And in one of those sichos, he points out that there are a couple of other differences, which Rashi doesn't note, which could also be explained based on this idea. After all, let's remind ourselves. Balak said, after they filled the land, V'hu yoshev mimuli, which Rashi explained to mean they're looking to cut me down, which means at least Balak presented his position as one of self-defense. If they're looking to attack me, even though that was a mistake, he didn't know that. If they're looking to attack me, I need to attack them first. In his estimation, that's justified to defend himself. Amazingly, Bilam leaves out that justification. He doesn't say, V'hu yoshev mimuli. He just says, they're there. And that's also part of Bilam's hatred that exceeded that of Balak. For Balak, what is cause to go to war against the Jewish people? They're looking to attack me for right or wrong. Whereas for Bilam, cause to attack the Jewish people is just because they're there. They don't need to be a threat to me. Additionally, and this is a more nuanced point, but as we know, every letter counts. Balaam introduces the Jewish people. No one mentions them by name. Sorry, Balak introduces them. Hine am yatzami Mitzrayim. Bilam said that Balak said, Hine ha'am hayotze mitzrayim. What's the difference between am and ha'am? What does that hey do? As we know, the hey is the hey hayadiyah, the definite article. What Bilam is saying is, what Balak initially says, Hine am yotza mitzrayim. He didn't specify which nation, as if to say, Balak is saying, it's not about which nation, whoever they are. Am yotza, a nation is going to, which one? It doesn't matter. They're a threat to me. That's what concerns me. But for Bilam, it's the fact that they are ha'am, the known entity called the Jewish people. They are the problem. If it was another nation, I wouldn't ask. And these, therefore, are what you could call shtaim shehem arba, the two differences identified by Rashi, with the two additional differences based on his approach by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and all of them are put down to this one idea that Bilam hates them more than Balak. So far, so good. But what's fascinating to consider in all of this is that no one asked Bilam what he would like to do to the Jewish people. No one asked Bilam what he feels about the Jewish people. HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked Bilam, who are these people? What do they want? Which means Hashem is asking Bilam to tell him what Balak wants. And Bilam ends up by responding what he wants. And the amazing thing is, as far as Bilam is concerned, he is telling HaKadosh Baruch Hu what Balak wants. Because this is the concept of active listening, whereby it's clear to him that he is repeating Balak's words verbatim. His hatred of the Jewish people is part of the landscape of all the words of Balak that come in. So by the time he's finished processing them, he could swear to you that everything he's saying is exactly what Balak said, even though we are treated to the original version of what Balak actually said. And this is the first example of active listening, whereby you're pretty sure, absolutely certain, in fact, that what you're saying is what you heard. And little do we know how sometimes we provide so much of what it is that we hear. So that when we replay it, it's really a mixture where it's based on the words that we've heard, but it's dressed and adorned and qualified and elaborated upon by the things that we would have said. That's an amazing idea. And of course, what's further amazing, and it's a bit of an irony within the story, is that we shouldn't forget, Bilam is asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for permission. The more Bilam he puts in the equation, the less likely HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to say yes. The more he would have stuck to Balak's original version, at least it's understandable. They're looking to attack me. I don't care who they are, and I don't wish them any harm. I just want them not to be near me. By changing all of that and quoting, so to speak, Balak in Bilam's words, he actually sabotaged his chances of HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreeing. Because really what he's saying is, I hate the Jewish people. I don't care whether they're a threat to me or not, and I want to get rid of them completely. Can I go? What are the chances of him getting a yes from that version of things, especially as it wasn't even real? But as far as Bilam is concerned, he has faithfully represented Balak's message. Quite amazing. It's a Musar Haskel. And interestingly, as we move past this first, which I would call the primary source, we see that in the Torah, sometimes even what you could call a neutral medium, which doesn't really have a meaning in itself, can be interpreted, but it's based on the person who's hearing it. And this is the basis of a fascinating comment of Meshech Chochmah. We have a look at page number 2, source 1, which is Shmos Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Yud Zayin, Parshas Ki Sisa. Moshe comes down from Har Sinai after 40 days, or just less than 40 days. He sees Yeshua, he's been waiting there. Yeshua has no idea what's been happening in the meanwhile, which of course is the Egel Hazav. And as they approach the camp, they hear a noise. And Pasuk Yud Zayin says, Vayishma Yoshua es kol ha'am bereo. Yoshua hears the people. He hears this loud noise, tumultuous noise. Vayomer el Moshe kol milchama b'machem. That's the sound of war. That's the sound of battle. Until Moshe says, that's not the sound of battle. But it's very interesting to consider why Yehoshua thought that it was the sound of battle. Says Meshech Chochmah, the reason's very simple. Because Yehoshua, as we have met him so far, and it's interesting that our first meeting with Yehoshua is with him as going to war. In the end of Parshas Beshalach, Vayavo Amalek. Amalek comes to attack, and Moshe puts Yehoshua in charge of the counterattack. That means Yehoshua's involvement with Bnei Yisrael and his responsibility for them is to protect them in a time of war. If that's your job, when you hear sound, says Meshech Chochmah, you hear war. When you hear so many people making a noise, and for anyone else it could mean any other thing, for you it means one thing, it means war. But it's a very interesting situation because the sound itself is just a sound. It's just a lot of noise. What is its meaning? Yehoshua heard it, but the interpretation actually came from Yehoshua himself. It's interesting to mention a very wonderful idea from Avram Gurwitz, Shalita, who may be known to you. He's the Rosh Hashiva of Gateshead, one of the great Talmidei Chachamim of our time, towards the end of the Seder. So as we move into Nirtza and the songs and Adirhu and Kilo No'eh, so we reach a song, Echad Mi Yodea. Who knows one, who knows two, who knows three? And of course, each family has their special way that they sing this song. And it's a mystifying song. Who knows one, who knows two? I don't know what that means. What do you mean, who knows one? One is one. Two is two. What does it mean to know a number? And why are we seeing this at the end of the Seder? Admittedly, I think by that point, most people will say whatever you tell them to say, that close to the end of the Seder. But the question remains, what is the meaning of asking who knows three, who knows four? And Rabbi Avram Gurwitz says, that's the goal of Seder, to see meaning in a number. Numbers have a language of their own. They don't actually mean anything. Three just means three. Three could mean anything, and four could mean anything. You very often find that you'll see what's most important to a person by telling them something that has no specific meaning, and then see what it means to them. Because for their part, that's what they heard. If you're involved in stocks and shares, so numbers mean expected rates of interest or dividends or such like. If you're involved in sports, they mean the scores that you might receive. And each person, he can hear the same number and he hears something else. It's an amazing question that we ask towards the end of the Seder. Have we identified with what's been happening in the Haggadah? Because if we have, and if we have so closely embraced everything that the Haggadah is talking about, we should have reached a stage that when you hear these numbers, this is what you think of. What does three mean? It means the others. It doesn't mean anything else. That should be your that should be what you hear, but that's a statement of where you are. For so often, as we're saying, the things that we hear are a product of us ourselves. I'll mention as well, it's too close to Lag BaOmer not to say a Hasidic word. And this comes from the Baal Shem Tov himself. After having come through the Yam Suf, we came to a place called Morah. And the Pasuk says they came to Morah. They couldn't drink the water because they were bitter. And that's why it was called Morah. So of course, the pshat is, we know, ki morim heim. Water is always plural. And the pshat, therefore, is they couldn't drink the water, ki morim heim, because the water was bitter. Says the Baal Shem Tov, that when its pasuk says ki morim heim, they couldn't drink because they were bitter. Morim does not refer to the mayim; it refers to Bnei Yisrael. Says the Baal Shem Tov, water has no taste. You know what it tastes of? Whatever you are, that's what it tastes. If a person's bitter, even water tastes bitter. They couldn't drink the water because they were bitter. Even water tastes bitter. And so it is with so many things, the things that we hear. A bitter person, everything they hear sounds bitter. If they hear something neutral, they take it for the worst. If they hear a compliment, they turn it into an insult, and they're convinced that's what they heard. And all of this is the concept of active listening. The things that we're sure that we hear, so much of it is actually coming from within. Now, mention in this regard, one of the, I would say, most harrowing examples of this, also from the Meshech Chochmah. And it's really, if there's anything that can give us a sense of what it is that we're sure that we hear, it's going to be Meshech Chochmah's comments to Bereishis Perek Dalet, which is source number 2. And I saw actually that Meshech Chochmah was not the first one to say this. Malbim also says it. And Meshech Chochmah knows Malbim, of course, back to front. And Bereishis Perek Dalet is the tension between Cain and Hevel. And Hashem accepts Hevel's korban, but not Cain's korban, and Cain gets upset. And then Hashem gives Cain a bit of musar. And that's in Pasuk Zayin. And he says, Hello, Im Tetiv Se'es. Why are you so upset? Im Tetiv Se'es. If you do better, you can rise from this. Bim lo tetiv, and if you don't better your ways, there's also consequences. La pesach hatas rovetz, right? Sin will crouch at the door. Ve'lechat shukaso, he's seeking you, your downfall. Batatim shalbo, but you can overcome him. Referring to the Yitzhahara. That's Adkan, the Musar Shmuz. Next, Vayomer Kain el Hevel achiv. Cain said to Hevel, his brother, they were in the field, Vayokam Kain el Hevel achiv vayaharkehu. Cain rose up on Hevel, his brother, and killed him. Everyone wants to know, go back to the beginning of that second pasuk. Vayomer Kain el Hevel achiv. Cain said to Hevel. But the pasuk doesn't say what he says. What did he say? Vayomer Kain el Hevel. Rashi comments, in fact. Rashi says he got into an argument with him in order to work himself up so that he could kill him. How has Rashi addressed the comment, by the way? The pasuk still doesn't say what he says. But Rashi's point is, if you want to get into an argument with someone, it doesn't matter what they say. I mean, the pasuk deliberately leaves it blank because it doesn't matter. He could say anything and you can make an argument out of it. That's Rashi's comment. Meshech Chochmah, and again, Malbim before him say an unbelievable thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu concluded his words to Cain by saying, Ve'elecha teshukaso. He's looking to get you. His desire is to seek your downfall. Latatim shalbo, but you can overcome him. You can come out on top. Who's him? Who's seeking your downfall? Who can you overcome? To us, it's pretty clear. Yitzhahara. But the thing is, whenever you use a pronoun, him, it, so then it's open to interpretation. In Cain's mind, says Meshech Chochmah, and Cain, shall we say, has Hevel on the brain. And that's all he thinks about. He wakes up in the morning, what are we going to do with Hevel? So if he's thinking Hevel, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Ve'elecha teshukaso, he is seeking your downfall. Batatim shalbo, but you can overcome him. Who's him? Says Cain, Hevel. Hashem is basically telling me that if I'm smart, I can overcome Hevel. He took everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, which was meant for his betterment, and turned it into further encouragement to turn against Hevel. Everything that was spoken about, he said, was about Hevel. And that's what the second pasuk means when it says, Vayomer Kayin el Hevel achiv. It's an incredible chiddush in Pshat. Vayomer Kayin el Hevel achiv means Kayin said and took all of that and directed it towards Hevel. All of Hashem's words, he says, is about Hevel. And so he killed him. We see how much a person can take even something that's meant to steer them on a better path and possibly even take that as encouragement to be worse. And this is true, and we've discussed so far the concept of listening, but it's true of all interpretations of situations. If we move from hearing to seeing, what do we see when we look around us? If you look in source number 3, Shmos Perek Aleph Pasuk Yud, and this, of course, is well known to us. These are Paro's words from the beginning of Parshas Shemos. He's talking to his advisors, he's talking to his people. Vayomer elamo, havan ischak malo. We need to be very wise with them. We need to act wisely with them. Pen yirveh, maybe they'll increase. Lest they increase, vayaki sikrenim el chamar, there'll be cause for war. V'nosaf gamor sonenu, they will add themselves, they'll ally themselves with our enemies. V'nilcham banu, v'ala min haaretz, they'll do war against us. And v'ala min haaretz either means they'll leave taking everything with them, or whatever v'ala min haaretz means. But this is the sum of Paro's fears. Pasuk Yud describes everything that Paro is concerned the Jewish people will do. He's convinced that they'll do. So much so, drastic measures need to be taken. That's the Pasuk in Shemos. When do we meet this Pasuk again? On Seder night. As we know, Seder night takes a very interesting format, whereby we start with the 4 or 5 psukim, currently 4, ultimately 5, in Parshas Kisavo, Aramia Vedavi, and we divide it into words and phrases, and each word and phrase we stop and we go back to the scene of the crime. We say this word, Kamo shene'emar, shene'emar. The word that is most often repeated in the Haggadah, I mean aside from Dayenu, is shene'emar, because we're constantly going back and forth. Another word from Chumash Devarim, and then back to Shemos, and then another phrase, and then back to Shemos. It's an amazing way of telling the story, and that's its own discussion. Why we tell the story that way, and not just in a straight line. Before you start Magid, you got to say Birchas HaTorah and also Tfilas HaDerech. I mean, you're going to be back and forth from Chumash Shemos to Chumash Devarim until further notice. And one of the expressions that we say in Devarim, you see that Devarim Perek Kavav, this is Haggadah Shal Pesach, Vayareu Osanu HaMitzrim. The Mitzrim were evil towards us. And what's the proof text? What's the pasuk in Shemos that we quote? K'moshe ne'emar, havan ischak malo, etc. Everything that we just quoted from Shemos Perek Aleph Pasuk Yud, the pasuk that refers to or expresses Paro's fears about Bnei Yisrael. Now, once again, one has to be very careful what questions you ask at the Seder. Okay, one can't get too involved in any particular point, discourse about it at too great a length. You don't want to risk people start singing Dayenu at you. But you have to ask a simple question. How is this pasuk an elaboration of that phrase? How is this pasuk an elaboration of Vayareu Osanu HaMitzrim? Vayareu Osanu HaMitzrim means the Egyptians were evil to us. So quote a pasuk about them being evil to us. There's plenty around. But instead of quoting a pasuk about them being evil to us, the Haggadah quotes a pasuk about their suspicions or their fears that we would be evil to them. What's that got to do with Vayareu Osanu HaMitzrim? It's an important question. But the answer comes from looking closer at the words Vayareu Osanu HaMitzrim, those very words. Perhaps we haven't looked as closely at them as we should. We are inclined to translate Vayareu Oson HaMitzrim, the Egyptians were evil to us. However, the pasuk doesn't say that, not necessarily. The way to say the Egyptians were evil to us would be Vayareu Lanu HaMitzrim. As in Chumash Bamidbar, in Parshas Chukas, it actually says that Vayareu Lanu HaMitzrim. But Vayareu Osanu is now awkward. They were evil, us, the Mitzrim. That doesn't flow. What does it mean? And there is a fascinating comment by Shlomo Kluger in one of his Perushim to Haggadah Shel Pesach. He had more than one. And Shlomo Kluger says that the word Vayareu here is not to be translated from the word Ra, which means evil, but translated from the word Reya, which means like Reyacha. After the Reyacha Kamocha. Who is Reyacha? Your peer, your fellow, your equal. And what's the point? The point is, and Shlomo Kluger asks this question, the Jewish people never hurt anyone. And here's Paro, suspecting them of every evil. And let's ask a shaila. Does Paro really believe this? Does he really believe that the Jewish people will ally themselves? No one is better citizens than the Jewish people. And if there's a war, they'll side with the enemy, etc. and so forth. Does he really think that? And if he does, why? And says Reb Shlomo Kluger, and it's an answer that rings true. And it's not for the last time, not the first or not the last time. Paro does believe it. He does believe the Jewish people are looking to take over the country. Why? Because that's what he would do. In their position, in the position of power that they have, with the influence that they have, there's no question that that's what he would do. And because that's what he would do, as he looks at them, it's clear as day to him that that's what they will do. The amazing or the tragic irony of Parshas Shemos is that the Jewish people were preemptively punished by Paro for doing things that Paro would have done, that they never would do. And that's why it all starts with the words Vayareu Osanu. They equated us with them. Vayareu Osanu HaMitzrim, whatever they would do, they thought we would do. And you know where you see that? Because look at what Paro suspects the Jewish people are doing. If there's a war, they're just waiting for their moment. And when there's unrest and upheaval and opposition, they'll strike. What Paro is describing is an accurate depiction of everything that he would have done. It's interesting that he ends with the words, Va'alam and Haaretz, and they'll leave. Of course, what he meant to say is, and they'll throw us out. I wonder whether it's possible that with this final phrase, if the entire suspicion of Paro is a product and a reflection of what he would have done if he was in their shoes, so perhaps this is the Pasuk's way of telling us that this is what Paro would do if he was them. And that's why he refers to throwing himself out as throwing them out. Va'olam and Haaretz, let's get rid of them. I mean, they'll get rid of us. It's a concept called guilty by reflection, because he holds his own image up to them, and now they're guilty. So the Jewish people paid for Paro's non-practicing crimes. And the same is true for many things that the Jewish people are accused of by people who you then discover what they would do if they had the power that the Jewish people would do. You don't learn much about the Jewish people from what our enemies say, but you can learn a great deal about our enemies. And this concept, as is so often the case, is summed up by one expression in the Gemara, Maseches Kiddushin, the beginning of the fourth parak. Kol haposel b'muma posel. One who disqualifies with something that's wrong with him. As if to say, why is it that you look at the other person that way? Why is it that you interpret what it is that they're doing in that way? Because you see yourself. Who suspects other people of being dishonest and devious, if not a devious person himself? There's an amazing interpretation from one of the brothers of Reb Chaim of Volozhin. There were 5 brothers, I believe, and of course Reb Chaim of Volozhin himself is the most famous Talmud of the Vilna Gaon. The youngest of the 5, Reb Zalman of Volozhin, who was also a Talmud of the Vilna Gaon, passed away unfortunately very young. And we have certain divrei Torah from him in a volume entitled Toldos Adam, a very special sefer. And he refers to the pasuk in Mishlei. The pasuk says, it's quite a well-known pasuk, Kamayim haponim el ponim, kein leiv ha'adam el ha'adam. Just like water, face to face, so too one person's heart to another. Kamayim haponim el ponim, kein leiv ha'adam el ha'adam. What is the meaning of this pasuk? Well, I think the common understanding, the well-known understanding is that your relationship with others and the reaction that you can elicit from someone else, it starts with you. Just like when you look at water. Water always reacts to you. You look at it, how will it look to you? The way you look to it. If you smile, it will smile back. If you frown, it will frown back. And Mishlei is saying, and people are like that also. If you smile, they'll smile back, as a rule. And if they don't smile back, it's a result of concerted effort. But if you frown, if you grimace at them, they'll grimace back. And that's kamayim upon him. Just like water reflects what you do, so to other people reflect the way you look at them. And that's again, as I say, the commonly understood interpretation. Along came Reb Zalman of Volozhin and said an amazing thing. The pasuk compares mayim upon him. The way you look at other people, it's like the way you look in the water. Says Reb Zalman of Volozhin, look in a pool of water, which again for them is the equivalent of a mirror. Look in a mirror, look in a pool of water. You see a face. Whose face is it? It's yours. Water has no face. When you look at it, you'll see a face. You're looking at your face. That's what you see. Kein leiv ha'adam el ha'adam. The same is true when you look at someone else. When you look at someone else, who do you see? You see you. You see the aspects of them that you relate to, that you're suspicious of, that you're happy with, that you're upset with. But different people can look at the same person and they all see someone different because they all see themselves. And that's Mishlei's way of stating what the Gemara says. Posel, b'muma posel. Why did you see that defect in the person? You see yourself, what you're afraid of, what you think is wrong with you, what you know is wrong with you. And that is the concept in vision that we started to discuss with regards to hearing. And the idea that comes out from all of this is that we often take a very simple notion of what it means to hear. What do I hear? What the person said. What do I see? What the person's doing. And along comes the Torah and says you have to look a little deeper, because it could be that what you're hearing is not what the person is saying, and what you're seeing is not what the person is doing. And a great deal of our interaction with people stands to benefit. And our interaction with the Torah also, many people, they can hear a message from the Torah, but effectively what they've heard is what they think. And they twist it and format it in that way, and they'll make birchas Torah over it. But effectively, what they're saying is nothing that was actually said to them. By the time they're finished processing it, they are effectively regurgitating what they would have said regardless, and just putting a Torah stamp on it. But we only really grow when we leave that comfort zone, when we leave that familiar landscape, and we actually try and listen to something that's being said from outside of us. In Birchas Torah, I think we refer to this every day, where we ask Hashem, HaMerachem Rachem Aleinu V'sein B'Libeinu, Lishmoa Lilmod U'Lalami, to listen, to learn, and to teach. Listening doesn't sound so hard. Learning is a bit harder, and teaching, well, depends who you ask. But Lishmoa, why are we asking for it before anything else to hear? This is the Sidur's way of telling us that you need a lot of Siyata Dishmaya even to hear, even to listen, and to hear what's actually being said, as opposed to blocking it out and reproducing it with what you would have said. And so we should all be zochet to take these messages, and all the learning and the teaching that we do should be further elevated and empowered by the fact that it was preceded by us hearing truly and clearly that which is said to us by other people and by the Torah itself. It's been a pleasure sharing words of Torah with you all. People tend to sign off that we should meet at Simchas and at Besuras Tovas. I will sign off the way Rav Kuperman Zatzal used to sign off. We should meet at Torah occasions. I think that was his way of saying we should meet at Simchas, and we should all be Zocher, the family Befrat, and Am Yisrael Bechlal, to Besuras Tovas, Yeshua's V'Nechamas B'Karov. All the best.
Important that a little bit complicated production this evening, and therefore we're very happy to thank Mr. Yossi Klein, who's head of the IT department of Nicholas, supervises things, Rabbi Joseph Sator Benowitz, who managed tonight's program. We thank them very much. Again, we thank Rav Bernstein for his Divrei Torah. Rav Bernstein told us how things can be perverted, both in terms of projecting ourselves on others, as well as perverting that what we hear. And the question, of course, is how are we able to protect ourselves against that perversion? I think Shlomo HaMelech came up with the prescription thousands of years ago, because he told HaKadosh Baruch Hu what he wants is leiv shameya, not just to hear with his ears, but to hear with his heart. Leiv shameya, leiv lamed bet in Eretz Yisrael, and for you tonight, lamed bet, the 32nd day of the Omer. Leiv, the first word of the Torah, Bereshis, and the last letter of the Torah, Yisrael, Leiv. But they are reversed, because if we want to train ourselves to hear well, we want to be honest with ourselves, honest to other people, honest before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it has to be from a complete involvement in Torah. And that's what we began with this evening, that one who is Mekayim Torah Mi'oneh, if I see that I'm missing that, and therefore I'm striving to hear it when I have Shirei Torah, like Rav Bernstein presented to us tonight, not just learning, but to be Mekayim, to fulfill the words of the Torah. If I feel that loss for myself, I feel that absence, I feel what I'm missing. And I'm able to search for it, as Michlala wishes to give to you, as Linda Pinsky School for Overseas Students, Malchus wishes to give to you. Be'ezrat Hashem, we will have the bracha of the Sofo L'Kaimei Osher. We'll have the richness of Torah that enriches our lives, not just our minds, but our lives, our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, our relationships with each other, our chovos halavalos. We thank you for participating in this Yom Iyun. Laila Tov, Sarot Tovot, good health, and Be'ezrat Hashem, not only for Torah Simchas, may we meet in person, Yerushalayim HaBeniyah. Laila Tov.